I think I'm the toughest girl in the world. Getting slapped was my favorite part because I really showed myself that I'm tough.
It's such a unique sport because like normally you're like waiting for something to happen in like an MMA match or a boxing match, but in power slap, like you know that someone's going to quote unquote slap the shit out of you or you're going to slap the shit out of them.
I just want to show people that it is possible because when I was struggling, I didn't have anyone to look at to see a recovery.
Almost like a toxic masculine culture, and I'm not just talking about coming from men. It's like men feel like we need to be tough. It's created like a toxic female masculine identity where then women feel like they have to be even tougher than a man. Welcome back to the 1% Club podcast, where we sit down with elite individuals who refuse to settle for mediocrity and are pushing themselves to become the best version of themselves, mentally, physically, and financially. Today, we've got an absolute powerhouse guest with us, Mikael-Michelle Brown. She's a trailblazing power slap athlete and someone with an inspiring journey of resilience, recovery, and self-discovery. Mikael-Michelle, welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so the journey to power slap. So let's start from the beginning. You grew up playing sports, even competing in boys baseball, and then transitioning to football, softball, and volleyball in high school. Eventually you got into MMA and even won an amateur fight by knockout. What was it about power slap that made you say, yeah, this is the next challenge I want?
I think the thing about power slap was I was kind of at a point where I was trying to figure out what I want to do because throughout injury and struggling mentally, I never quite got to that second amateur MMA fight, but I still have such a passion for competition. So I was looking into all the different organizations to get into commentating or behind the scenes, and I stumbled across Power Slap, and at first I looked at it, and when I was watching the guys do it, I was like, I would never do this, but maybe I can commentate for it. And then as I saw the females competing, I was like, I could absolutely do this. I need some competition in my life. I'm at a point where I feel really good in my recovery and I'm ready for a new challenge. And I just messaged them, didn't hear anything for a minute, didn't think about it. And then I got a message back about a month later saying, next month, do you want to do your first one? And I was in and I hooked from there, so.
That's awesome. Now, when you say first one, is there like, what type of training do you do to prepare for like the first one?
So it's crazy. They don't give you any information. They don't give you any training. You really got to figure it all out yourself. So, for the first one, I just knew that I had to weigh in at 135 pounds the day before. And then the day of the competition, I was going to go up, slap 3 times, and get slapped. As far as training goes, I just did what I thought was best, which was strength training, core training, neck training, and then slapping. So my mistake was I was practicing as if I was throwing a hook and assuming that was the best technique. But as I got there and met the other slap strikers, I think that's what we call them, slap strikers, I realized I was completely training wrong. So I didn't have the best slaps, but I did realize in that first one that I could definitely take a hit.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think when we do the work, I have some unique ideas that that I think can be applicable to the sport. Obviously, I work with combat athletes for like 10 years, but this is power slap is unique, just like bare knuckle fighting. This is much different, and I think you said it right. Is you have to be able to take a slap. Yeah. And just like in bare knuckle, you have to be able to get hit, you know, with a bare fist. I think that people don't really realize that. So like, I notice fights will either go 3 minutes or 2 minutes, or they'll end in 10 seconds. Someone gets tapped. So I see that to be pretty interesting.
And just like bare knuckle, it's so new that nobody has figured out the technique yet. So everyone does something different, and it's just kind of what works for you right now. Whereas, you know, MMA, it's like, okay, wrestling wise, this has been shown to be the best. So everyone's trying to figure this out.
Do you know Christine, the bare knuckle fight champion for women's?
I don't know her personally, but I know of her.
I'll introduce you guys because I feel like you can. She's pretty hardcore, but I feel like what's needed is almost the same, and I would consider her training completely unorthodox because of the sport. It's interesting because she's even told me that she's had to transition to different coaches because some coaches were training her for boxing, and even though there's elements of boxing, it's much different. A round is 2 minutes, and it could be like all out. So it's interesting, this new sports that are coming about, like exactly what the training style is different.
Yeah, because you go into it thinking one thing, and then you don't realize till you're getting hit in the face that, wow, this is actually a lot different than I thought.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So obviously when you got hit in the face the first time at the Power Slap, what went through your mind after that?
It woke me up, and honestly, getting slapped was my favorite part because I really showed myself that I'm tough, and just like sent electricity through my body, and I was like, no, I can do this.
Okay. It's such a unique sport because like normally you're like waiting for something to happen in like an MMA match or a boxing match, but in Power Slap, like that someone's going to quote unquote slap the shit out of you, or you're going to slap the shit out of them.
Yes.
So it's really unique that people know when this moment is coming. So
it was a crazy thing to think about too, because I think I'm the toughest girl in the world, but at the end of the day, I've never stood in front of somebody and let them slap me as hard as they can. So as much as I wanted to believe that I could take it, I wasn't 1,000% sure. So when I took that first one and I didn't go down, it was just such a relief, and I was like,
yeah, I know it's like kind of sounds cliche, but in life, has this kind of shown you that, hey, I can show up for myself in things that are like unknown, and almost apply that to your life?
Absolutely. I think that's something I struggled with too, is kind of the long term. I was really good at doing very quick things, like, quick results, but this, it's like, okay, for 2 months, I got to get prepared for this. So the fact that I did that and did it completely by myself, no coaches or really anybody helping me, showed me
That's
that a lot.
awesome. No, I love that. Let's talk about overcoming mental health struggles and your eating disorder. So I think one of the most inspiring things about your story is the openness about your mental health and your 10-year battle with bulimia. That takes an insane amount of strength to talk about it. What was the turning point for you in your recovery, and how has that journey shaped who you are today?
So this is actually something I've never talked about, and I feel like going into this, it's something that I realized that I'm so strong in my recovery, I am ready to talk about it. But the turning point for me when I decided that I needed help was I've reached out for help and, went through therapy and doctors and so many things over those past 10 years. But the real help I got was about a year ago. In January 2024, I went into a 45-day inpatient treatment where I lived basically in a hospital and was 24/7 therapy, no access to a bathroom and everything. And it was probably about exactly a year ago I graduated from that.
Okay.
And over the past year has been my first full year of recovery, whereas the 10 years, maybe I'd do good for a month and less eating disorder habits, but it always come back. I always knew when life was good, it was easier, but as soon as something goes wrong, I'm going straight back into it, because that's what I did for 10 years. So even right now, the fact that I'm in a weight cut, probably the lowest weight I've ever had to cut to, and I'm not doing it 100% healthy, has really just shown me that I am fully recovered and that it is possible. Because there's a big thing in the eating disorder community that even therapists, where their whole job is revolved around eating disorder, that it's impossible to 100% recover for an eating disorder. So I just want to and I even believed that for myself for so long. So I just want to be the person that no, it is possible to be 100% recovered. And, a year ago I was broke and depressed and didn't want to be on this earth anymore. And then today I'm going into the most exciting competition, and I'm financially stable, and life is completely different than it was a year ago. And I just want to show people that it is possible, because when I was struggling, I didn't have anyone to look at to see a recovery. I saw people maybe do better, but I think it's something that's just never talked about. So people that struggle with it don't really know that it is possible to overcome. So
yeah, no, I'm glad that you're sharing that today, and I feel like when you get an opportunity to quote unquote to be in the face of the public, of course there's some influence there, and I do feel like those times, people are able to share, certain things that they've been through. And I feel like it really resonates with people, that they open up about these things like that. That was the whole point of why I even made the podcast is, I've, trained many professional athletes, many, high-end business owners. So I felt like, okay, like there was my platform, but I don't just need to keep accumulating all these people that I work with, because I really don't care from one human being to the other. I just want to help them. So I figured that this was a chance for me to use the platform that I created and just kind of give back. And I feel like it's a common thing. You feel like you have no one to talk to, and it just so happens you use the bulimia as a coping mechanism to deal with stuff. So I commend you for your recovery on that. What do you do today? Like, say you're getting stressed out and you feel like you need a coping mechanism. Has that shifted for you? So what do you turn to now when you're under pressure and stress?
I think the main thing I turn to now is myself and telling myself that I can get through it, but I need to live in the moment. Because I really used my eating disorder, bulimia, whether it was the getting rid of the calories part of it or accumulating the calories part of it, as a way to escape my body, because I felt like I couldn't deal with things. So now, like, this has been honestly a really rough week, and I've had a million emotions, but instead of thinking I need to escape those emotions, I'm like, no, I'm tough enough to handle them. And if it sucks right now, it sucks, but I'm gonna feel the suck instead of go escape. And the crappy stuff is still there, but instead my mind is on the eating disorder instead of the crappy things in life. So really my coping mechanism is just knowing I can get through it and telling myself that I'm gonna get through it.
I think that's the most important part. Is I feel like even with a therapist, they're always trying to be there to, they have to have some sort of a bait and aid to you. But I'm finding out in life that sometimes you just have to go through things. And I do feel like in that time, it's okay to talk to them, talk to other people about it, because what I thought, especially being a man and the way that I look, that we should be weak. Like, we shouldn't talk about the things that we're dealing with. And I think that was wrong, especially, in the past for me. So now I find myself just having great conversations with men and women. Like, it's just not me going to another man because I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then this, I think that starts helping, like, the whole world in general.
Absolutely.
Especially in the world we live in today, where we're just buried into the phone. So we're constantly comparing ourselves to everyone, everything, every business. And, that can get really, it can take a toll on you for sure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being here today, even though it's a tight schedule.
I mean, the main thing is, like you said, you want to help people. I want to help, the girl that was me a year ago, wishing somebody shared their story. So
yes, I always like to think back and be like, are you like the person now that like you saw yourself creating in your mind? Because I feel like everyone thinks that, like, oh, I wanted to be that person in high school, or I wanted to be that person, and kind of going back and be like, I'm just going to create that person. Yeah,
for sure. I think too, with me and the struggle with the eating disorder, is even as I sit here right now, kind of something since I was born, is my toughness is really important to me. And growing up being the only girl playing baseball, always around, football, I never cried. I can get hit with the ball going 60 miles an hour. I wasn't going to shed a tear. So then as I got older and emotions started to get real, I still felt like I needed to be the toughest.
Yes.
And that showing emotion showed a lack of toughness. And to me, that was the end of the world. Like, if you didn't view me as the strongest girl in front of you, then for me, that was the end. So I kept all those emotions in. And then once I realized that asking for help actually is a lot more brave and tough than just, going through it by yourself, is when I started to be able to express emotion. And now it's completely changed me. And I cry all the time, but, after I cry, I feel good. So I don't need to turn to other things because I just feel the emotions.
Absolutely. I think I say this on almost every podcast because it comes up. It's like a reoccurring topic on almost like a toxic masculine culture. And I'm not just talking about coming from men. It's like men feel like we need to be tough. Yep. It's created like a toxic, female masculine identity where then women feel like they have to be even tougher than a man. And I feel like then it becomes really difficult having relationships, having friendships, because there's just like a stigma that gets created on that. So I feel like it's actually healthy to be, emotionally available to yourself for one, and then to someone else. And it's not really something that you need to hide from. I think actually what's cowardly is not being honest with it and letting it build up. And then, like it's happened in my life where it just destroyed some of my most prominent relationships.
Yeah.
And it started with myself, but I didn't know it because I kept trying to cover things up. So obviously, childhood trauma and all those things, it creeps up. But you said something, it's like you're never truly recovered from something. I actually feel like that's a good thing because it keeps you in the feeling like I need to continue to work on myself.
Yes.
Like I think that people think that, oh, I got the answer, and then something else, maybe something happens 5 years from now, we can't see it yet, and then it breaks you all the way back down.
Yep.
And that's for someone that thinks that they've just overcome something.
Yep.
And I feel like it's actually a reward to be able to continue to work on overcoming those things, because evidently you'll get to the reason of why was I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
Yours was just in the form of an eating disorder. Mine was in the form of let me work myself to literally to death, stay up overnight, do whatever I needed to in order to prove that I was the hardest worker.
Yeah.
And that, again, those are all little sicknesses that we create in our head.
I feel like ways to escape.
Ways to escape, yes. So your physical transformation is unreal. You've lost 125 pounds.
Yes.
And completely rebuilt yourself as an athlete. What does your current training and nutrition look like now as you prepare for the Power Slap competition?
So in this moment, I'm on a cut because I woke up this morning at 127 and I need to be 125 tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So today is probably just a lot of liquids, electrolytes, and sweating. But leading up to this, my first one I did in December, I needed to be 135 pounds.
Okay.
And I was walking around at about 155. So I really just focused on more cardio along with my strength training, really just cutting out sugar and stuff. But for me, especially in my journey, telling myself I can't have anything at all is really what freaks me out. So instead of cutting out 100% of the things, I try to do the 80-20. 80% of the time eat real healthy, 20% of the time, have a cookie here and there, have a coffee that tastes good. So then I don't feel like I'm completely restricting myself.
Absolutely.
And then obviously as you get closer, you got to restrict more, but when you're not doing it all the time, it's a lot easier. Something I also never talked about was I did at one point, probably 2.5 years ago, weigh 250 pounds. And even people close to me don't know that because at that weight, I didn't leave the house. I had no social media, nothing, because I was so uncomfortable. So, I was 250 pounds at one point. Now I'm almost 125, and it's crazy to think about. And again, having a healthy relationship with myself and food has really been able to push me to get down, but to be at a healthy weight for the last year. So.
Absolutely. Have you ever shared like a before and after transformation to anyone like that?
I have never. And I eventually want to, but it's still rough for me because people that I have shared it with will be like, I can't believe how huge you were so fat, like all these things I've never seen. But I'm still the same person. I look completely different, but that fat girl is still me, So
Yeah.
I am a bit sensitive about it, but really after this, I feel like I'm getting to the point where nobody can say anything to bother me because I really feel good about how I feel about myself. So I do want to share that. And again, to help people, like sharing the eating disorder story that, you can go from being, very unhappy and uncomfortable with your body to showing it off and doing competitions where your body is really like center stage. So.
Yeah. I think, people who make those comments, yours ended up being food as a coping mechanism. But, I'm sure everyone listening to this can agree. You can look the healthiest too and still be sick inside mentally, which is even worse.
Yeah.
So, I understand, maybe feeling susceptible to comments you may get, but I think that it would really inspire a lot of people.
Yeah.
And what you're doing now. That's why I think that when you have a platform to utilize, it's so much influence you could have in a positive way. Okay, so you've mentioned wanting to be the face of Power Slap, eventually to become a commentator for the organization. What does success look like for you in the next few years, and what's the ultimate goal?
Success for me in the next couple of years looks like transitioning from, I'm a waitress right now, so I work probably closer to part-time now because of Power Slap. I'd like to completely transition out of that and over into Power Slap, the organization, whether it's as a full-time striker, you know, or hopefully commentator, ideally both. I really love sports and competition, like I said, and the fact that Power Slap is so new, I feel like being in it at the beginning, I can really grow with them the way, you know, Joe Rogan has grown with UFC, or even the UFC fighters like Cormier, that's now an amazing commentator. And I really see that for myself. And yeah, the goal the next few years is really just fully be part of Power Slap.
Yes, I can tell. Obviously, you're new to Power Slap, but I feel like they're underrating you. So it's like, can the pretty girl go out there and slap a shit out of someone? And what's your response to people when they ask those things?
I like it because I feel like being underrated, they don't take it as serious. I'm going into this taking everything. You know, my last match, I was the biggest underdog because I was going against a UFC fighter. I remember Power Slap posted a picture of me and her, but didn't even mention my name. It was just kind of, oh, she's coming from UFC to Power Slap, and then a picture of me. Nobody knew who I was. I wasn't getting any interviews, and, you know, I was humble in that, and I was like, I get it. And then, you know, I completely won that match, and everyone was so surprised. And then going into this, it's only my second one, and I'm on the main card, and I'm even more counted out because I'm going against somebody who came from the UFC and is doing bare knuckle boxing and all these things. And, you know, someone mentioned, oh, I'm just a waitress. So I think for me, it's even more fire to really, you know, show them I'm not just a waitress. And even if I am just a waitress, now you're going to get knocked out by a waitress. So how are you going to feel? And people have kind of used that, I think, maybe to humble me a little bit or make me feel some type of way. But I'm very proud. You know, I make my living. I have an honest job, and I love being a waitress. So to everyone that's, you know, trying to make me feel bad about it, like, I will never feel bad about that.
Yeah.
So.
You know, it's an interesting thing in the world because I think everyone always wants so much, but what they want so much of is stuff. And then in their lifetime, if they get all this stuff, I think they quickly realize that, no, that didn't bring happiness to me, but I'm going to pretend like it does because I spent all this time chasing after something. Yeah. So I think that's an important lesson to learn at a young age, is that stuff definitely can make you happy, and it's important to go after stuff. But when you have it all, one, do you have your happiness? And two, did you leave anything behind as you were in the hunt for all this stuff that we think that we want, you know, as a civilization? And I've been guilty of that myself, you know. I've made a whole bunch of money, got a successful business, and ended up the most unhappy I've ever been. But no one saw that, because all people think is they see, oh, he's doing this with the NFL, he's doing this with the NBA, he's doing this with this business person. But they don't realize that the cost of that, like, you give yourself to other people all day, and what is the cost of that? You know, it's not getting put back into the bank.
And then it's even more isolating and worse feeling, because you're like, wow, I have everything I ever wanted, and how can I be feeling like this? And it's even worse because now you're like, well, what now? Because when you don't feel good but you're broke, you're like, all right, I don't feel good now, but when I have money, I'm gonna feel good. Then you have the money, all these things, and you're like, oh shoot, now what do I strive for if I already don't feel good? And,
you know, it's interesting because, you know, I feel like the influence of circle of people around you can make or break you, but also the people that were around me, I felt like, oh, I can't show any weakness to these people. No, they're athletes, they're CEOs, they're professional athletes, high-end people, that anything that could be a sign of weakness shouldn't be shown to these people. But those were all the people that were around me for 10 years. So I think that even doing that for 10 years also created a little bit of toxicity mentally. So I think, you know, in life, it's I'm learning that if you got, you know, a handful of friends or 5 friends or whoever it may be that you can always count on, like, those are probably the most important things. For sure.
Absolutely.
And on that sense, it's also okay to change those people as you elevate as well, because not everyone is able to come along to the next journey.
I've definitely noticed that. Sadly, I think a couple of people that were close to me as I was struggling, now that I have success, it's almost like a wedge between us. I moved into a new apartment, and a good friend of mine just kept saying how lucky I was and really never was happy for me. And then even as I'm going into this, it's kind of basically have told me I don't deserve this and I just got lucky and all these things. And I was like, wow, as a friend, you think they'd push me and be happy for my success, but and I haven't heard from them in like a month now. So it's kind of weird to lose friends when they were around during the bad times. So you assume the people around during the bad will be around during the good, but then they leave you at the good. It's like you don't expect it, I expect the opposite. The people that didn't want to be with, hang around me before in my struggle, want to hang around me in my success. I get it, but
I think it comes down to like your accessibility. I'll kind of explain that. So before I had this business, I was just like accessible anytime to a certain amount of people. And because of that, they were always willing to pay, do that, whatever the case may be. Yeah. And then when I would mention, hey, like I kind of want to do something bigger, there was maybe 2 out of 100 people that actually go ahead and do that. Mm-hmm. And the other people just wanted to control me because they didn't want to lose the accessibility to me. And I find that to be really interesting. And I think that it happens multiple times in life, and it happens to everyone, but you just don't know until you can reflect back on there's no celebrating. You're sitting alone in the stadium clapping to yourself at the end of the day. Yep. So I always thought that was interesting. Were there some like life events that you can like look back on that kind of started leading to the eating disorder? Yeah.
So I'm born and raised in Las Vegas.
Okay.
My mom is from a little tiny island called Majuro. It's in the Marshall Islands. So I'm half Marshallese, even though I just look white. And then my dad's from California. My mom is the toughest cookie. Like, she's a construction worker right now, the only female on her job, and she runs it. And then my dad's a construction worker and a hockey player. So I just grew up just around toughness, and everybody was strong and all that. And my name was Michael, so I just feel like growing up, my name was Michael, and my dad put me in football, so I really just clung to the tomboy thing. Okay. And I was the biggest tomboy until 8th grade, when I realized that I can like all the tomboy things, but still dress like a girl. Yeah. So up until like 8th grade, I just dressed like a boy, was always at recess with the boys, and then I became a cheerleader, so I went 180 to the opposite. And then in high school, I just basically did every sport, did the girly sports, the tomboy sports. And after high school, I was so sad not doing any sports, so I got into training MMA. Okay. I just did it for fitness at like the little UFC gym, the classes that are like an hour and you hit the bag, but I just loved it. And one of the coaches there, his name is Josh Clark, he was on The Ultimate Fighter. He kind of told me that he thinks I have some potential, so I went to his actual gym, which is Extreme Couture, and I just remember walking into the gym and seeing them training. I think it was like pro practice, and I've never been around it in my life, and I just instantly fell in love with it. I saw the girls fighting the guys, wrestling, sparring, and I just knew it was something I needed to do. So then I was training with him, again, just for fitness, and then the opportunity for a fight came up, and I said absolutely, and I had my first amateur fight, and I won. I knocked the girl out, and I've just loved fighting ever since. So
I think that your secret weapon for Power Slap is like you have the dual identity. Yeah. So they're gonna look at you and be like, she's not gonna do that, but you are, because of your past. Yes. So I think that will work strongly in your favor. Well, for a while, so they know that, hey, I better respect this person. Yeah. So do you have a few people coming to watch you on Friday?
I do. I'm so blessed that it's in Las Vegas, because I have so many family members and friends coming. And they're all, it's so funny, because every person that I told I do Power Slap and that knows me well has said, that is absolutely something that I see you doing. But then people that don't know me too well, just kind of on the surface, like, I can't ever see you doing that. So I think that's like so funny.
What does your work know that you do power slap as well?
They do.
So what do they think?
They love it. They're like, this is crazy. Them two at first was like, because people hurt my feelings and I cry sometimes at work. So they're like, I can't believe the one that like cries in the freezer is the one that's over there slapping the girls. And then my manager's always like, I'm gonna have you come slap these. I probably shouldn't say that, but they're like, when guests complain, they're like, oh, we're just gonna get Mikey to come take care of it. So, but they're really supportive. I love my job because they gave me the last 2 weeks off. They're telling everybody's been so supportive, and then I go back to work and they're very lenient with my schedule. So
I think that's amazing. I always like talking about what people do for work because I think it's important. So obviously, waitressing. How often do you have like customers treat you poorly?
A lot.
A lot?
Yeah, and I've noticed that the nicer I am to the people that treat me poorly, the worse that they treat me. I've been cussed out a lot, and I'm totally one, you don't got to be the nicest to me, but to be treated badly consistently does kind of get to you. So I've really been working on just being very blunt with the people that are rude, because the more I apologize, the more they kind of feed off of that. And so I've been learning that the past few months.
I find, for me, if I go out and eat somewhere, someone is obviously waiting on me. I never really see it like that, so I hate even saying that.
Yeah.
But which is probably half of my problem. Like, I like to do everything myself. But if I go out and I'm eating somewhere, like, it takes a lot for me to complain about something. I think because I own a business.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because as a business owner, I feel like you just get the shit kicked out of you.
Yeah.
Because you have to take whatever complaint comes in. And most of them are not your fault because did you forget to do something? Was it your staff? Is it a complaint that's not even real?
Yeah.
So I find myself, I think this was a growing situation for me to be like, okay, I find grace in this situation. I'm just going to smile.
Yeah.
And take whatever it is that's coming to me. But it takes a lot for me to complain about something. And it's mainly because I know that it's rarely probably ever your fault. And, there's a lot of other things that can go on. And it's just kind of like the person that I am.
Yeah.
It's just, I'll think about, like, how am I going to treat this person? Yeah. Because it's a reflection of the way that you see yourself, unfortunately.
Oh, I've definitely learned that. Now I don't take it personally, because if I know I'm doing my best, and especially when it's just food and it's really not that serious, and somebody is so overworked that they're cussing me out, I know that they can't be happy in life, because a happy person would never treat somebody like that. So if anything, I feel bad for them, because if they're letting their burger being medium and not medium rare ruin their entire night, they probably have some bigger problems.
I think it sounds silly, but I think there's a lot of life lessons to be learned from just listening to something like that. It really is true. Unfortunately, I'm like a people watcher, so I observe everything. And it's just, sometimes it is like shocking to me the way that people treat other people. Like for me, even if someone slammed the door in my face, I'll still hold the door open for every person. It was interesting. I was coming out of, I think, the Fountain Blue, and the concert ended. So there was a huge amount of people. My truck got pulled up, and I was holding the door open, and a random dad said that he's like, oh, I want to, his daughter was with me. He's like, I hope that my daughter has someone that will, treat them like a gentleman. And I said, I stopped him. I said, it has nothing to do about the person I opened the door for. This is what I do as a person for every single person. So that was interesting. But also was interesting how someone felt the need and the want to come up to me literally randomly in the valet with that many people around. Yeah. So, my philosophy is, if one person can see it, maybe 1,000 people can. And that's kind of always a philosophy I use in my life as well. Yeah. Let's talk about the power slap training, because I have some ideas. So obviously, we couldn't even do it today because obviously you have the competition, but I feel like training your grip strength
Yes.
would really cause some serious damage. And I have like specific machines for that.
Yeah.
Plus things to like increase your torque.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come back after the competition, I'm excited for you to implement some of these things.
Yay. Oh, I'm so excited.
So, wow, Michael, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, not just for being a badass athlete, but for your resilience, your transparency, and your willingness to share your journey in a real way. And for those of you listening, this is why we do this, to bring you real stories from people who are putting in the work, breaking through their barriers, and chasing greatness on their own terms. Can you give them a link to your Instagram?
Oh, it's Mikael-Michelle, Mikaell Michelle.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. I can't wait for them to see the episode. We'll get that training in as well. Okay?
Yes, I'm excited.